We should have a lot of testing to do today. Last finals. Hello. We are waiting for some more people to show up, so I should get quite a few people today. Gloria, are you Gloria Horner?
Yes.
Ah, I remembered you from our list.
Thank you.
Hi, Karina. So we'll give a couple minutes for everybody to pop in, and then we'll go talk about some sleep stuff. Any questions before we begin? Karina, any questions? Gloria?
Nope, not yet.
No,
Yeah, still
me
learning,
either.
right? Karina, you should see, did I put anybody on your team this month?
I don't think so. I had 13 and I haven't looked. It's probably been about a week or so. So maybe a couple. Come on, Pop. Of course, the dog wants out, right? Because she sees, she's like a child. She sees I'm doing something.
Right.
But I don't think so. But I do have somebody signing up this weekend. They're from out of town, and she finally Facebooked me yesterday, and she said, I'm coming into town. She wants to do it in person.
Oh,
So
good.
she's ready to sign up this weekend, she said.
Well, make sure you look at the Skill Up training course so you can, get some ideas on how to talk to her so she understands everything.
I definitely will.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so everybody's going to pop in late, I bet, but we got to get started on time because I know you have busy schedules and you got other things to do. So I'm going to dive right in, and today we're going to talk about sleep. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what we're talking about. So this is Sleep 101. And we're going to do this in, in relation to essential oils. So let me pull up my slideshow real quick here. Slideshow, there we go. Okay, so Sleep 101. And the way I want to do this today is I basically want to just talk about, about sleep. What is sleep, right? Effects of too little sleep, because we know it has profound effects on our daily living, and ways that we can, disrupt our sleep, things that we're doing that are making our sleep, less valuable than it should be. And then perhaps solutions that we can use to help us with our sleep, right? So welcome. And I really want to have you leave here with some ideas on things that you can do at home easily yourself that are going to help improve your quality of sleep, help you fall asleep or stay asleep if that's the issue, right? If you have any questions during this, there's a chat button on the bottom. You can actually just chat in a question and I'll see it, and that way I can answer it in case it's not answered throughout this presentation. If you went to my Facebook page, you notice that I put the resources for this class on there. There's a bunch of links. Some of them are really some really adorable videos with just little tidbits of information about sleep, because we're always hearing, so many different things about sleep. Why do we get poor sleep? What can we do to make our sleep better? And so some of those videos are very helpful to help you understand, changes that you can make and what kind of things might be interrupting your sleep now. So obviously we know that one of the biggest health challenges we have is lack of sleep. And it's interesting because if you look back even, 100 years ago, did they have trouble sleeping? Not really. They got a lot of exercise out in the fields. They were exhausted at the end of the day and they went to sleep very well. They all slept very well. And we don't hear a lot about, sleep disorders back then or sleep problems because people generally slept well. They didn't have so many things going on that we have now. And now what we have is an estimated 50 to 70 million adult Americans are suffering from lack of sleep, as to the extreme where it's actually a disorder because it is affecting their daily lives. And we know that, to be healthy, we are supposed to be spending a third of our lives asleep. That's 8 hours a day, approximately, asleep. And again, we want to make sure it's no less than 7 and no more than 9. 7 to 9 hours seems to be the average amount for a healthy adult that we should be, setting as our goal for actual, uninterrupted sleep, right? Now, one of the things that we have going on, of course, we have, health issues that can influence our sleep. But then we also have some other things. Some people just don't have enough time in their very busy schedules for adequate sleep, and realize that you may think you don't have time, but if you don't make the time for good sleep, you're not going to function the best throughout your day. And so if you're trying to get things done, better sleep is going to make you better. I know on days that I don't sleep well, I have trouble even cleaning the house because I'm not very efficient. I take a lot of breaks. But on other days where I get a good night's sleep, I wake up feeling ready to go and I'm out there clean, and I get so much done. It just definitely seems to be a lot more effective, right? So we want to attend to these sleep-related needs first. Let's do that first and correct that part of our life. That way we, maximize everything. And we can enjoy our lives because that's what we're here for, right? We're supposed to be enjoying life. So let's do it awake and feeling good, right? So what's a good night's sleep? And that is, again, what we say, 7 to 9 hours, depending on your activity levels. 20% of it is supposed to be deep sleep, 25% is REM sleep, and then there's other sleep that we go through. And it's not just the quality of sleep that's important, it's also the consistency. So we need to be consistently getting a good night's sleep. Can you imagine, and I don't know, who can remember this, but imagine a week where every night you slept like 7 to 8 hours every night for a full week? I mean, if you've ever done that, it's just amazing the way you feel after that because you got so much good sleep. I feel that when I go on vacation. I get a really good night's sleep for a lot of nights in a row, and I feel like, wow, this is what really good sleep feels like. So let's find out how we can do this at home because we don't get to be on vacation all the time, right? So we're going to have to find some ways to get achieve the same thing when we're in our own homes and our busy schedules. One of the side effects we know of sleep deprivation is, sorry, I got distracted. One of the side effects, of course, of insufficient sleep are going to be you're more prone to accidents. And, we're talking about car accidents if you're driving, accidents in the home, dropping things, bumping into things. We're just more clumsy if we haven't had good sleep. We're not operating efficiently. And so that if insufficient sleep can cause us to have all kinds of issues. The lack of energy, our response time, our reflexes, all these things are affected by sleep deprivation. So we definitely don't want that to happen, right? We want to perform our best. And so we need to sleep our best. Go on to, so the side effects of sleep deprivation. Also, the other side effects, so the one thing we know, we get more clumsy, we know this, right? But one of the other things that we have is the body is learning to function on low levels of energy over the course of your poor sleep. So if you're getting poor sleep fairly often, then your body is learning to function on those low levels of energy. And it makes it difficult to have the energy left over to heal your body from the other things that we're going through, right? Because we have so many things going on in our lives. We may have illness and other, just catching, viruses or whatever, our bodies need to spend time fixing that stuff. And it can't fix it if we're working on, a low kind of reservoir of energy. So we see that lack of sleep has been linked to serious things such as diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, and even heart disease. It's also been known to shorten overall life expectancy. And this is something, I studied sleep in college. And when I studied sleep, one of the things they talked about was they did find multiple studies where they proved, and they didn't know what the correlation is. What the causation is. They only knew the correlation, which is people that do not sleep 7 to 9 hours a night on a mostly regular basis have shorter lives. Just a fact, but they don't know why. So at least they didn't back then. And I think the jury's still out on that. They don't really know now, but they have, a lot of ideas, obviously, on what kinds of things could be causing that. So we know that short-term studies have been done, of course, where subjects have deprived themselves of sleep. I don't know why anybody would volunteer for a study like that, because, oh my gosh, that would just drive me nuts. That's horrible, giving up a good portion of your life and your health and everything. But people have deprived themselves of sleep so they can examine the immediate effects of a lack of sleep. And they've noticed that they have heightening blood pressure, lowering of blood glucose levels, and increased inflammation. And what do we know about inflammation? It's the cause of everything, right? Inflammation is our enemy. We don't want that inflammation, certainly not long term. And we know that these symptoms can lead to very deeply rooted expressions of this imbalance in our bodies. It can lead to imbalances in our hormone levels, which makes us more prone to mood swings and difficult emotional states. Visible side effects of sleep deprivation. You can see your skin gets dull, dark eye circles. We all seen that, right? One night of bad sleep, you get those bags under your eyes, right? And you're more emotional. Your emotions aren't in check. You can get angry more easily. It leads to some aggression. These things can get out of hand. And it's simply sleep deprivation that causes that. So we do not want to have that, right? We all want to operate at our best. We want to be as wonderful as we can be every day of our lives, right? We want to be there for our family and our friends, and we want to be the person that we want to be with our good, happy moods and everything. And we can't have that if we're constantly sleep deprived. So why do many people experience this uncomfortable and stressful sensation of not being able to sleep? Because, we all want to sleep, and you can sit there and say, I'm in bed for 9 hours, so if I could just be sleeping that time, that would be awesome, because maybe you are one of those people like me. I spend 9 hours a night in bed, but I can't sleep very well a lot of those nights, and I need other things to help me, and that's why I use the oils a lot to help me fall asleep, because falling asleep is my issue. Once I'm asleep, I'm good. My husband has the opposite. He falls asleep within like a minute. I'm so jealous. But he wakes up in the middle of the night and has trouble falling back asleep. So we're always dealing with these things. So we have two different things going on. And that's why it's nice to have a diffuser and to have the oils to help me fall asleep, right? And the overstimulation that we're presented with is constantly means that there's always something going on. There's something happening, and we feel that we have to catch up or achieve. We have to get something done. We have to do this. We have to get this done. Everything needs to be taken care of, and we need to be in control of these things. And it keeps our mind really active, not only at nighttime, but in the daytime too. And so some of the things that we're seeing that is why adults are having trouble sleeping is, one, technology, right? So before technology became so overwhelming and in our lives, our bodies were more in tune to the rising and setting of the sun. And the further and further we've moved away from that and introduced technology, starting with, the clock that woke us up in the morning instead of relying on us to wake up at the right time, because we had to be somewhere, right? So we set an alarm and our clocks wake us up. And then it got more, we have more technology in our lives now than then, because that was, a long time ago. And since that, we've added more and more things into our life that have, kind of cluttered our lives. And these external influences are affecting how we sleep. So during the days, during old days, everybody kind of slept when the sun slept, right? The sun went down, we started to wind down our days, everybody went to sleep, people got up in the morning, worked on the farms, because we were a farming community back in the old days, right? And when the retinas in our eyes immediately detected a natural hormone called melatonin, right? As soon as the light started to decrease, the melatonin causes us to feel sleepy, and during a healthy period of deep sleep, remains elevated in our bloodstream. So if you test your blood when you're sleeping, you're going to see high levels of melatonin naturally. Now we think of it in terms of that bright blue light that's emitted by phone screens and flashing lights of the technological devices that we have become addicted to, right? And as soon as this kind of light hits the retina, the effect of melatonin is immediately reversed and actually promotes a state of wakefulness over that of sleep. So that is why you're seeing a lot of studies have shown, turn off your phone, turn off your TV. You don't want to be exposed to those things, especially as you're starting to wind down your day. And so, a lot of people say maybe a couple hours before you go to bed, and you could argue maybe even a little bit sooner than that, because basically when the sun is going down, we should be getting off our devices. And that would be ideal to get our sleep. But, a lot of us have jobs and stuff that requires to be on those devices more. And we'll figure out, ways to get around that whole melatonin release, because that's not something we can control. It just happens that, that melatonin release and the interruption of that melatonin release when we are using our laptops and our phones and everything like this. Now we have this combined with artificial lighting, right? So we have lights at night, right? So now we turn on the lights at night, which also disrupts our sleep patterns, lowers the overall quality of the sleep that we do get. So as the bright light that we crave lies inches away from us at nighttime, in case a wakeful moment presents us with a social media craving or something like that, right? So we know that we have a lot of problems with checking our phones, checking social media, using lights at night. And if we really want to have good sleep, one of the ways we can help foster that is as the sun starts to set, unwind, get away from the technology. TV is not such a big issue, especially if it's a bigger TV that's farther away from you. But you do want to turn off the lights in your bedroom, and keep as many lights and things away from you, and especially the phone, because it does have a unique light that is really close to our bodies and really does affect us. So what we can do, because we do need to use our phones, right? So some of the things we can do to kind of help counter this effect is to dim the light on your device to its lowest setting possible. So I don't know if you realize that you can have, on your phones, you can set your brightness settings, and you can set it so that when it detects it as dark out, it just has a certain amount of light and doesn't have more. And yeah, it's hard to read when it's like that. But if you don't do that, then instead you're making your body not produce that melatonin, and you're inhibiting your ability to go to sleep. So you want to do that. Also, dimming the lights in your house. So, a lot of us have lights that aren't dimmable. So you want to turn off those bright lights, get those bright lights off, and start just putting on your dull lights. In the old days, would they have candles? A nice soft light, right? So we want to do the same thing. Hey, maybe even turn off your lights and use candles if you can. That would be kind of a fun thing, and do an experiment like that. Try that for a few weeks and see how your sleep is. So at least 1 to 2 hours before what you're going to call your bedtime, right? Turn off all your blue light devices in the house, your TVs, computers, tablets, and smartphones, ideally. That'll help trigger the production of melatonin, and then you'll be sleepy at the right time. You'll actually feel sleepy. And then try to regulate that routine to be about the same time every day, because you do have a sleep-wake cycle. And, one of the problems we know in college students a lot of times is they, go to bed earlier during the week because they have school the next day, and then on the weekends they stay up really late. And it wasn't so hard in college. Our bodies can deal with that. But as you get older, it gets really, really hard. And now even an hour or two difference between like a weekday and a weekend, staying up late on the weekend can really kind of wreak havoc on your system of getting to sleep properly at the right time. So again, you also want to reduce any stimulation. So you shouldn't have a lot of stimulation, before your bedtime. You shouldn't be doing, dancing and exercising and stuff an hour before bed, because you're kind of revving up your body when you're supposed to be trying to wind down your body. So you want to do things like reading books, listening to music, meditating. Those are more focusing, socializing maybe with your family. You can read a book to your kids, whatever, right? And that is going to make it really easy for you to fall asleep. And then charge your phones and your devices, those temptations, charge them away from your bed for a couple reasons. And this has nothing to do with this particular study and what I'm reading now, but I've done separate research that shows that these devices do emit low-level radiation, and they do make changes in our body. They're subtle, but all these things kind of work to make it very difficult for you to fall asleep. So if you can move those things away from you, move them away so you're not tempted by them, move them away so they're just not near you. Keep all these things away from you. And make sleep the kind of like your sanctuary, where this is where I get to relax. This is where I'm supposed to relax. And I was very guilty of this a lot, because I do a lot of my work in bed. I'm actually in my bed, my desk is by my bed, and I need to kind of reformat things. And now I'm in a different room. You can see I'm not in my bedroom anymore. I'm out in the dining room because I'm trying to learn to work not in my bedroom, because I've developed a lot of sleep problems because I've been working sitting in my bed, and my brain is not doing well with that, my body and everything. So I made changes myself, and so I'm suggesting changes for you guys too. Some of the other things also is we want to make sure that we eat right for falling asleep. So if you're somebody who is having problems with sleep, making some small changes in your diet can really help make your body ready for sleep, because you need to be tired. You need your body to fall asleep, right? And your brain. Everything's got to fall asleep and wind down at the end of the night. So studies have shown that low carb diets and high sugar consumption, and not just the bad kinds of sugar, even good sugars, before bed or even throughout the day, is a huge contributing factor to the difficulties that we have in sleeping. So you do want to, especially as the day wears on, make sure that you start getting the sugars out of your diet, and you want to have those carbs, right? So we are really, our bodies are not really set up to deal with the typical carb-loaded Western way of eating. So that's what we call it in America, right? And this is why insomnia and diet have become strongly linked. And if you've ever put gas into a diesel engine, you know that putting the wrong fuel in has less than ideal results, right? We're the same way. So we need to make sure that we are putting in the right type of fuel so that it doesn't wreck our sleep. Now, refined carbs like white rice, sugar, products made out of white flour, like bread, crackers, and cakes, and white flour, because you can always have alternatives. There's lots of alternatives to these things. You can have wheat flour, and these are all things that you start incorporating in your diet to make changes. But those things are really only second to caffeine in reducing the quality of your sleep. So look at your diet and look at nights when you have a really good night's rest, and see if you can pinpoint what kinds of things you might have done that might have interrupted your sleep diet-wise. So again, just getting those, some of it's common sense, right? And some of it isn't, maybe. So it's white rice. White rice is a very common thing that we eat for dinner. You could have it for dinner, and maybe you need to look at wild rice or brown rice instead of that white rice, which is going to be more of that refined carbs. Get those out of your diet, especially later in the day. And if you're going to have rice or something, put it in your lunchtime meal. And then, avoiding crackers and cakes, which, crackers and cakes they're nice snacks to have after dinner. And a lot of people do have them. Cake is when do we eat cake most? If you were to guess, when do we eat cake most? After dinner, of course, right? That's our dessert. People don't have cake that much in the middle of the day. We eat it after dinner, and that's a pretty bad habit. Actually, maybe we should eat it after lunch instead, or for lunch if we are trying to lose weight, right? So what happens is the refined carbs get broken down to glucose in your gut, and they're absorbed very quickly into your bloodstream, and because they have a high glycemic index, and that makes your blood sugar shoot up to a really high level, which is really bad for your body. What happens is your body then spills out a load of insulin to deal with the threat, and because it's had to do it like an emergency rush job, it overshoots the mark, which means you actually end up with low blood sugar. So if you're eating natural foods, which tend to have a low glycemic index, these violent swings in your blood sugar and your insulin don't happen. So you want to really be aware of that. So if you're having trouble sleeping, maybe look at the fact that, in the American diet, we do have a tendency to eat sugar after dinner. And maybe that's something we have to really look at and say, maybe sugars aren't a great thing to have, as much as we do, and certainly not after dinner. So if you're having trouble sleeping, try getting rid of the sugars after dinner. That's your first step. Just try just after dinner. Still have sugar, maybe after lunch or something like that, because you can only make so many changes at once, right? But maybe think about doing sugar after lunch so that you can let your body wind down and deal with these things. So there's lots of resources, of course, about things that you can do for sleep, and I've posted a bunch of them online already, and I'll post a few more for you, so that you can kind of look at some of the different things you can do to change what's happening now. Now, reasons for lack of sleep in adults, again, another one of them is lifestyle. So some of them, we've already talked about some that are lifestyle, but there's some other things that some other things that we can discuss on top of that. I mean, some of it's common sense. We know, turn off your phone before bed, get that out of our room or something. Improve your diet, obviously, makes sense. Having good fitness during the day is going to make you sleep better. If you're more tired because you've maybe worked out or something like that, went for a long walk, these things, they exhaust you. And if you're exhausted, on a day when you're just thoroughly wiped, yeah, you can sleep those days because you're thoroughly wiped and your body gets tired. So you know that works. But we need to, we don't want to feel wiped every day before bed either. It's hard to feel wiped at the end of every single day. So we want to make sure we just incorporate enough exercise and enough other activity that we can feel reasonably sleepy without feeling like we're just thoroughly exhausted, because we don't need to go to bed feeling that bad, right? So some of the things that we know affect it: work hours, work location. If you take a nap, if you do take a nap, a lot of experts will say a 20-minute nap is great, a cat nap. But if you take a nap over about 30 minutes, you run into this risk of actually making it more difficult for you to fall asleep. So don't be afraid of that cat nap, but it needs to be a cat nap. And one of the tricks they use is they will have people drink a little bit of caffeine, like a cup of coffee, and then get down for a cat nap, and that coffee will automatically wake you up about 20 to 25 minutes later, because that's when the caffeine kicks in, and that will automatically wake you up. So if you are a coffee drinker, that's something that you can do. Maybe take that early afternoon nap, not too late in the day because you don't want the caffeine still in your system, but early enough and late enough that you can feel a little bit refreshed, because the Mexicans had it right. That siesta, good idea. Just a little siesta in the middle of the day, give you a little bit of boost in that second half of the day so that we have more energy. So if you work long hours at home, and everybody who's doing doTERRA as a business, we're working long hours at home. Don't tell me you're not, because I know we are. We're all doing it, right? And we often don't stop working until later in the evening, and that can really confuse our bodies. So we need to kind of wind down a little bit earlier. Means getting a little bit less done, but if we're messing up our sleep, then that is just not healthy for us. And so we need to, we're gonna have to do a lot of giving and a lot of changing to make sure that we get good sleep. And if you get good sleep and you spend less time working, if your work is better, more productive, that's going to be the same in the long run anyway, but you're going to feel better. So I want you to feel better. That's the best thing that you can do. Now, if you regulate your evening sleep cycles and you can adhere a strict before bed routine, then hopefully you won't even need naps during the day. But if you do need a nap, just keep it a short one. Now, environment has a lot also to do with our sleep quality. So when you look at this picture, like I like this picture, and I'm thinking, that is a really simple space. I like that space. My bedtime space is cluttered, and it shouldn't be, because when you have clutter around your bed, when you have magazines and you have books and you have papers and you have pens and you have what do I have around my bed? I've got so much clutter there. I've got a lot of stuff around my bed, and that you can see where that can take away from the serenity you're supposed to feel. Because I look at this picture and I think, now that seems like a very serene environment, doesn't it? It's very simple, nice, luxurious bed, looks pretty comfortable. Just a chair, a little table, drapes, and it looks very simple. There's not a bunch of clutter there, which means your mind can just focus on where you're at, and you be in that space. So sometimes you have to look at the clutter in your bedroom, maybe move it over to the other side of the bedroom, and have a space that is just your bedtime space. It's where you sleep. Light a candle. So lighting a candle or even diffusing essential oils and turning off the devices can contribute a lot to your sleep quality. I don't know if you feel this, but I feel really good when I light a candle. It's something calming that I feel the moment I light a candle. It's nothing to do with what's in the candle or not. It's just I don't know if it's just the light that emits from a candle, the romanticism we associate with candles or whatever, but it relaxes me. I love having a candle lit. So that's a really great thing that you can do. And then, of course, diffusing various oils, and we'll talk about that at the end here to talk about which oils to try to diffuse, and what combinations that you can try to see if you can do better with your sleeping routine, right? Obviously, outside noise, you want to get rid of that outside noise as much as possible. Obviously we don't always have that opportunity, and there are things in our environment and our outside noise that we may just have to get accustomed to. Some people like to use white noise generators of some sort. A lot of those are, interestingly enough, on our phone. Probably don't want to play that one, but there are devices that you can just turn on that will give you white noise. A lot of people use an air purifier, and that's a great white noise generator. So you can run an air purifier at night to hopefully cover up some of the environmental noise that you might hear outside. So definitely you want to do that. And then again, you really need to just get the phone out of there. The phone should not be there. And people say, well, I need my phone because it's got my alarm. It's like, well, you know what? Alarm clock's really cheap. Buy an alarm clock instead and keep your phone away from you. Keep it out of there. I turn mine off at night. And because I know I can't have, we don't want to have disturbances in the middle of the night. So hopefully you can turn your phone off. And it's hard because it's my cell phone, and I wish if my kids have a problem, they can call. We have another phone that they can call, so they'll call my husband's phone instead. So sometimes you have to have a separate phone, because I get a lot of phone calls on my phone because it's a business phone, right? But you want to have a personal phone that is just for your close family and friends, in case of emergency, and make sure that if any other calls that really aren't that important are going to come in, and text and whatnot, right? Make sure that those are not going to wake you up in the middle of the night, because that is the most miserable thing. And that's just, we know that. But when that happens, it's miserable because it really screws it the next day. So there's a really fascinating study that was done in insomnia in Japan, and I'm going to post that one because I thought it was really interesting. So I want to post that one. It's done in Japan on sleep health. Now, sleep and mental health. Some of the things are really obvious. We know that if we suffer poor sleep, we're grumpy, right? Grumpy, we know that. So we know that affects our mental health. That's a really obvious one. It's as effective as, sleep is as effective as eating and drinking and breathing. It's one of our necessities. We need sleep. We absolutely need them. We need them for our cells to repair themselves. One of the worst things would be if you're having poor sleep and then you get cancer because your cells can't repair. And that's one of the key things in cancer. You need your cells to repair. And it's hard enough because if you have cancer, you're stressed. And it's really hard to sleep when you're stressed too. So we need to find solutions to help us be able to sleep well and develop really good habits, before we run into more problems. So anytime you're having, mental issues, hormonal issues, balance issues, if you wake up sometimes, I like to explain this as like, some days I wake up and I just got this racy feeling in my body. I don't know how to explain it. I just like my body's racing. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what causes it, but it's a horrible feeling. And a lot of times when you have poor sleep, that's what you do. You wake up feeling like your body's racing. You're just not in balance is really what it is. And we have an oil for that called Balance. So that one helps a lot. We use that a lot, diffuse it or roll it on our feet or something like that. So that's one way we can deal with that issue. And it does seem to be very effective. It does need to be reapplied several times during the day to maintain that balance, because essential oils are metabolized so quickly by the human body. So we do need to reapply, but it is a great way to kind of rebalance your emotions if you are struggling through the day because of poor sleep or other issues. Obviously, we know that poor sleep results in health disorders such as anxiety, depression. Depression is really, really highly correlated with poor sleep. Low levels of physical energy, of course, then, because you don't have physical energy if you're not getting good sleep, and then that results in poor cognitive ability, and then the inability to process thoughts clearly, which can lead to all kinds of things. It's interesting when they do studies on like prison populations and stuff like that too, to find out, how they ended up there, especially when you're dealing with somebody that has, aggression issues and stuff like that. A lot of these are associated with really poor sleep, and it really affects people so much so that I really wish companies would never have their employees working, in the middle of the night, and then, then they're working in the daytime. That these altering shifts like that is very, very difficult. It's very difficult on the human body. We are not meant to do that. And lack of sleep contributes to the likelihood that you will develop a mental disorder. So even if you have no mental disorder, if you don't get good sleep, you are more likely to develop a mental disorder. So you definitely want to make sure you take control of it now. There are over 70 types of sleep disorders in existence right now. I don't know if you realize that. So the most common problems are insomnia, which is difficulty falling or staying asleep, right? We all know about that one. Obstructive sleep apnea, that's the disordered breathing that causes multiple awakenings. And a lot of people don't know they have this. Various movement syndromes, so you've heard of restless leg syndrome. You've heard of some other, movement syndromes that people have at night. Narcolepsy, extremely sleepiness or falling asleep suddenly during the day. I've had narcolepsy, and I like to say had, because although it's not something that ever goes away, it is something I was definitely diagnosed with, and it did go away. The doctors are perplexed, to say the least. They don't know why it went away, because they don't really know what causes it. They just know that it is. Sorry about the noise there. I don't know how to turn it off. Kira, could you go turn off that phone? Never mind. Okay. So there have been a lot of overlaps between the study of mental disorders and sleep disorders, and so the researchers are regularly concluding that there must be some kind of overlap in their biological roots. But what does that tell us? They really don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything. We just know that they do overlap, even though we don't know the causation really of these things, right? Now we know of something called REM sleep, right? And we know, REM sleep is a great thing, and it would be nice to boost REM sleep, because REM sleep is where we do a lot of our processing in our brain, subconscious kind of thing. That's our rapid eye movement sleep, of course. And a lot of people are really well aware of it. Some people don't know, like in narcolepsy, REM sleep is the first sleep stage for narcoleptics. It is not for the normal person. The normal person does not enter REM sleep until later in the evening, after they've been asleep for quite some time. And that's one of the major ways to diagnose the disease. Now this, when REM sleep accounts for about 20 to 25% of your total sleep in adults. And it decreases with age. So a newborn baby may spend, the latter half of their sleep period, basically, in the hours before waking, and throughout your sleep cycle, you enter more and more REM sleep. So you go into REM sleep, then you go back to other stages, you go back to REM sleep, and as you start to wake up, as you go in, before the hours before waking, you have more and more and more REM sleep throughout the day, or the night. I mean, and it's kind of cool because REM sleep is also where we dream, right? So we like this because we wake up with this dream fresh in our brain. And for me, sometimes it's like I read a book. I feel like I've just read this very interesting book. Sometimes I don't understand it, but I feel like I've actually read a book or something like that. It's like I just went to a movie or just saw a story or something like that. I wake up with this kind of feeling of, that was kind of pleasant, it's nice. So we don't need to go into, the details of what REM sleep is. I think a lot of people understand it, but we do know that during REM sleep, you have brainwave spikes in the region of the brain that's involved with vision, as well as elsewhere in the cerebral cortex. So that is all, it's interesting. Does it help us? Not really, but it's interesting. Okay, now we want to boost that REM sleep. So why do we want to boost the REM sleep? Well, REM sleep is a very effective cycle of sleep, and people that don't get good REM sleep do have a lot of trouble. And they've actually done, I think they've done some research studies where they, whenever they went to enter REM sleep, they woke them up. And they did this over a long, long period, and they found that REM sleep is terribly important. And these people basically, they just went crazy. You need REM sleep. We absolutely have to have it. So we want to have that REM sleep. We want to do the diet, the fitness, if we can. We know that lifestyle factors, environmental factors, all have an effect on the type of sleep that we have. And so think really hard about what things can you change so you can have better sleep and try to boost your REM sleep. I am going to also, there's an article here I'm going to post on the Facebook page, because it says how to stimulate REM sleep. So I don't want to take a lot of time here today doing that, because I know these meetings can go long and I don't want you to have to suffer through a long meeting. Hopefully you're enjoying this though, but I will post it so that you can figure out ways to stimulate REM sleep. And actually when I post it, I'm going to look at it, post it, and comment on it. And then if you guys can comment on it too, I'd be curious, what you think about the different ways that you can stimulate REM sleep.
You can hear me okay, right?
I can barely hear you. Hello? Oh, somebody was trying to hear or talk. I can't hear them though. Okay, meditation also for sleep disturbances. So if you are suffering some, really, really difficulty in falling asleep or staying asleep, learning how to meditate can be very, very effective at focusing your thoughts. It just balances you. It can give you, round you out, give you more energized lifestyle. And really it's because we need to take a little bit of time for us. You need to take like a half an hour a day and just reflect. And we go through this a lot of times, as we're talking about different oils and things, because that is really important, that we have to have some downtime. Our bodies, our brains need to have that rest that isn't sleep, that meditation time. And it doesn't have to be, sitting there going, we don't have to do that. It's just somewhere where you can sit and just relax and not think about the work day you just had, or the work you still have to do tonight, or the things you have to do around the house. And ideally, meditate somewhere where you're not going to be distracted by things. Because, as women especially, when we look around our house, we see little things that we wish we could fix or things that we probably should clean. That's just our tendency. And so maybe you need to get outside or sit in a closet or something, but just get away from everything and take a little bit of time for you and just reflect and be happy and just appreciate what you do have. So that, because when you do that, it releases endorphins in your body and it helps calm you. And those things are going to help balance us as individuals much better than, a lot of other things. It's always been shown to be very, very effective. So doing this regular meditation does, again, help. They've done studies where it does help with falling asleep. So if you're having trouble falling asleep, and you can meditate before sleep, I find that one of the best ways I have for falling asleep is I start praying. And for some reason, I never finish my prayers. So God's forgiving me, I hope. But a lot of times I'll just sit down because I reflect and I talk to God. And then a lot of times I just fall asleep. I find it very relaxing, I guess, huh? So whatever we have to do to meditate, reflect on the things around you, your day, whatever you need to do. Okay, run, go catch that thing. Yes, okay. And I'm going to add some links to meditation. Some of our people on our team are actually very good at meditative type things. I know that we have one that does EFT, which is a kind of tapping. And that's... I think that's two people that do EFT, and I know several people on our team do meditation, and that does help a lot with trying to focus and put your body in a balanced state, even if it's just for a short amount of time that you can afford to spend. Start with 10 minutes if you need to, and just sit and just be, and not be run, right? So some of the other things, there are sleep cycle apps. So are we surprised? No, we're not surprised. Sleep cycle apps. So there's apps out there to help monitor your sleep cycle. They measure things like when you enter your deeper periods of sleep, when your potential for REM sleep is highest, when and how you start to enter into the lighter levels of sleep. And then by monitoring those, it gives you an awareness of how to maximize your sleep times. So you can start to use your sleep time to your advantage and maybe figure out triggers or reasons contributing to your lack of sleep. So there's an app called Sleep Cycle, which will provide you with all the information, and they're available on Apple and Android. And you want to make sure that it doesn't require you to keep your phone close to you. You don't want your phone close to you at night. You want it away from you. So if you can separate it from other things and just have that be something you're focusing on, that would be good. So I will post that too. It's actually www.sleepcycle.com if you're interested in doing that app. Because it'll give you information. It's not something you do forever. It's something you're doing to gather information about how you sleep, so that we can pinpoint, what are the issues? Are the issues falling asleep and staying asleep? And what stages of sleep is your body entering at what times of the night, so that you can work with making any changes that will help that. So any artist who's familiar, with the deeply focused sensation of flow state knows that it's a state when our creative capacity is heightened, and that leads more to more intense and lengthened state of focus. It also feels like we're deeply in tune with our bodies and minds, and this is something artists do enter this, and that's why they can be so creative. And we all enter this, and we all have a little bit of artist in us, granted, right? We may not be able to do more than stick figures, because I certainly can't. So I wouldn't consider myself an artist, but we all are artists in our own way, and we're all creative in our own ways, right? So it's interesting to consider our capacity and focus, to focus in terms of our ability to cultivate deep states of sleep. So as the brain waves that are involved in maintaining the flow state, so your alpha and theta waves, are the same waves that are involved in maintaining the continued and deep stages of sleep. So it follows, obviously, that after an intense period of flow state, we find it easier to get to sleep. So channeling your energy in one direction consistently means that energy is more accustomed to going down those pathways, and that improves your capacity to enter into any state, including deep sleep. So what that basically is telling you is, if you can start, being creative before bed, that's a time when also a lot of times I'll think about what I want to do the next day. What kinds of things can I come up with? And we're with doTERRA. If we're doing doTERRA as a business, we need to be creative. We're always trying to come up with ideas. How do we reach out to people? What can we do? I've seen some of your, like Barbara, I've seen your creative things all over the place. you're getting really creative with your stuff. I'm really impressed. So, think about those things before you. Yeah, you're welcome. And think about those things before you go to bed and come up with all these ideas. You go through this creative state and then you can wind down from there. It's really interesting how that works because, and I don't know if other people see this too, I am the most creative right before I fall asleep. I'll think of awesome ideas and sometimes I'm mad at myself because I'll fall asleep and then I forget because I was pretty much almost asleep anyway when I was doing this creation. And then I'll wake up and be like, oh yeah, I came up with something last night. And what was that? Trying to rack my brain. I'm sure other people have gone through the same type of things where you fall asleep in the middle of your creative phase and all of a sudden you're like, oh, what was that I was going to do? And you're trying to recall that memory, but unfortunately you were in that kind of like that, you were practically asleep at the time. So it's really hard sometimes to recall that. Let's see. Let's go into psychological insomnia. So one of the most difficult to deal with is really a psychological insomnia. And that's when your thoughts are just preoccupied by the fact that you're not sleeping. So this is the biggest problem, right? It's just this whole circle. It's like, oh man, I can't sleep. I'm having trouble sleeping all the time. And you just get into this, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to fall asleep. And you're actually stressed about the fact that you're not falling asleep. And that stress is causing you not to fall asleep. It's very cruel, isn't it? So we have to stop worrying about that and trust our bodies to start to balance and start taking control of it, figuring out ways that we can have good sleep and stop letting the fact that we might not sleep or might not fall asleep soon make us so stressed that we don't fall asleep, because stress is really hard to fall asleep when you're under stress, right? So a lot of times you see it in people that don't even have sleep disorders, or a lot of times because they have something going on the next day. Like there's something really big happening the next day and you can't fall asleep because you're so stressed about it or excited about it, and it just keeps you up. So it happens a lot. And it does, like almost everything in nature, all these things we deal with and all these idiosyncrasies and these problems that we have, it affects women more than men. I don't know why we're so lucky. The only thing that doesn't affect women more than men, I think, is prostate cancer. Huh. So this is the problem that we seem to always have, right? And it's basically characterized by the onset of anxiety as you're trying to go through this bedtime ritual and fall asleep. So we definitely want to try to get ourselves out of that whole pattern and have more confidence that we will fall asleep. And, a lot of this, when we use essential oils, it's nice because that essential oils and the knowledge that the essential oils are going to help us can also help boost our confidence and take away some of that stress, right? So I will also post some stuff about the psychophysiological insomnia. Our psychophysiological beings we are so, what's the word I'm looking for? Body and mind are so connected. They really are. And our thought processes have so much to do with how we feel with everything. And overcoming psychological things that actually physiologically affect our body is really hard. And I get this sometimes with people that don't want to do essential oils because they say, oh yeah, strong scents, just really wipe me out. And I said, but they're essential oils. They're really natural and you're not going to have that problem, because what we found is psychologically people who have had problems with perfumes and artificial fragrance because they are synthetic and have had, serious issues because they're very allergic like me. What we do is we develop this, it's almost like we smell a strong odor and we go into like this state of panic. We're stressed because our bodies automatically assume that it's something bad and it's going to hurt us. And you have to overcome that. And I had to overcome that and learn what things were natural and what things weren't, and to trust them completely. So I went into the literature. I went into doTERRA's test results to make sure it was totally natural. And after I convinced my brain that it was totally natural, now I don't have those problems as long as I know it's essential oil. If I smell somebody else's essential oil and I don't recognize it and it's not one of ours, I may still go into that psychological, physical response simply because I don't know. And if somebody can prove to me that it's natural, then my brain will, tell my body, okay, it's natural, calm down, get over it, and then I can. So I will post those results on psychophysiological insomnia because it is a real thing. Our brains do so much. We can overcome illness simply by willpower. We've seen it done. People do it. We can do amazing things with sheer willpower and strong beliefs. And so we want to make sure that we we let our bodies heal this way, that we believe in something, that we trust it, that we learn to trust it. If we don't trust it, we find out why we don't trust it and figure out what it will take so that we do trust it, so that we can change our lives. And then we have some of the easy stuff, sleep enhancing foods. So let's start talking about solutions, right? So one of the foods that we can use, protein-rich foods that are rich in the amino acid tryptophan. We know that, right? Those can be a benefit to you if you're trying to improve sleep, falling asleep, because that amino acid helps to encourage the sleep-producing hormone, melatonin, which we're all familiar with. And so we will sleep better. Chicken, turkey, milk and dairy, nuts and seeds are good foods like this. And then you combine them with things like rice, not white rice, but other rices, pasta or potatoes, which helps the body gets the most from the tryptophan. So do you want to eat them right before bed? No, because your body's busy digesting. But a couple hours before bed is a good time to eat those kinds of foods. And it's kind of interesting because if you can think about it, maybe having handfuls of nuts instead of that ice cream, And I'm sitting here thinking nuts on ice cream. Well, that would do the dairy and the nuts, but unfortunately the sugar's in there. Otherwise, that would be awesome, huh? And then throw a banana split. Oh my gosh, it's the perfect bedtime food. So, but probably not, because it does have all that sugar in there, which kind of, takes away all the other great effects we had. But nibbling nuts before bed. If you like to snack at night, maybe nibbling some nuts, get some pistachios, some walnuts or almonds or pecans or whatever, and nibble on those before you go to sleep. And, some snack foods that are really, the best, of course, are going to be your walnuts, almonds, green leafy vegetables, root vegetables, also great grounding choices that will get you to a calmer state of mind and ease anxiety before retiring for the night. So I will also post a list of those sleep-inducing foods. I got lots of links in this presentation, which is great because these links are all different things that we can look at doing and maybe just try them one by one, or the things that interest you. I love when they provide us information like that to share with you guys. So now we are down to our essential oils for sleep. So I did some extra research on this to make sure that, I understood all the different oils. And I've tried a bunch of them myself, and certain ones work. Some worked for a while and then didn't work, and I had to switch to some other ones. So I don't know why that is. I've tried combinations of the oils, and what I'm trying to do is trying to find an oil that helps me fall asleep, but also helps my husband stay asleep, that I can put in the diffuser. So that's kind of a challenge because I'm trying to solve two totally different problems, really, because staying asleep is a whole different issue than falling asleep. But basically, we know what essential oils are, so we're not going to go into that part because we know what they are, right? But you know that some of those fragrances have been proven, really proven. Lavender's been studied. Oh my gosh, it's been studied. There's got to be hundreds of thousands of studies on lavender out there and how wonderful it is for calming the body, calming the mind, relaxing you, and for sleep. And no side effects. We've never seen any side effects from it, which is awesome, right? So a lot of people like to use the oils that, the top choices are going to be lavender, chamomile, sandalwood, ylang-ylang, and cedarwood. And you put that in your sleeping area, so diffuse them, right? And you want to diffuse all night long if you're having trouble staying asleep. So we have two different issues. If you're having trouble falling asleep, you really only need them before you fall asleep. And so you can run a diffuser for a couple hours, right? But if you're having trouble staying asleep, then you need a diffuser that's going to run longer. I like the new Lumo diffuser. I really like because it goes intermittent, so I use a lot less oil. So that one is big money saver. I'm so glad they came out with that. So it runs 10 hours intermittent, so it's 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And basically that makes it last twice as long. Or you can run it constant. It has different settings. So you can run it 2 hours constant, 5 hours constant, or 10 hours intermittent. So at nighttime, I can put on the intermittent setting, and that way it will run all night and keep putting those oils into my air. So that is a really good choice if you're looking for something that will last you throughout the whole night. There is a study that shows the effects that essential oils have on the nervous system, and I've read a similar study especially with lavender. Lavender has a profound effect on the nervous system, which is great. So we do want to make sure that we look at essential oils as for their various benefits. Some of the other ones that's really good too, I want to mention because I did some other research, is marjoram is really good for calming. And interestingly, it's also good for muscles and joints. So if you're having muscle and joint issues and you want to be calmed, it seems like a great solution, right? So, people have asked me before, there's so many essential oils, and so many essential oils do a lot of the same things, but every essential oil does a different slew of things. Like, we know what some oils are mostly for. So lavender's mostly used for sleep, right? But we know it has a bunch of other benefits, like it's great for, when you're itchy, it's great for anti-itching, it's great for calming. Kids, do really well with it. It's also good for a lot of times for head tension. So we know this, and there are other oils that are good for sleep, but they're not necessarily good for the other things. So you want to find the oil that's going to solve your problems, because everybody's, basic list of their basic problems is going to be different. So you want to try those different oils. Bergamot is also another one that you can use. And I have a recipe here I want to share with you. It's called Liquid Sleep. So Liquid Sleep, you take 15 drops of lavender, 10 drops of vetiver, 5 drops of frankincense, and 5 drops of ylang ylang, and then 5 drops of wild orange. And you put that in a 10 milliliter a roller ball with the fractionated coconut oil or a carrier oil. And then you can apply that before bedtime. Usually you want to apply that to your feet and your neck. So you get it, usually when you do your neck, you do kind of like the back of your neck right here. And then the bottom of your feet would be good for those kinds of oils. Some people like to put like drops of lavender on your pillowcase, because when it's on your pillowcase, that smell actually stays there for a lot longer than 2 hours. Because when you put it on your skin, a lot of those oils will be gone in 2 hours. They're completely metabolized very quickly. Some of the other ones stay longer, like vetiver will stay longer in your body. It takes longer to metabolize. So you want to look at blends and combinations that are going to help the oils stay. So lavender by itself is great for somebody who has trouble falling asleep, but not so good for somebody who has trouble staying asleep, right? Because it will no longer be in their system. And so we know, all the different things. We've got meditation, we've got yoga, we've got changing your diet, learning how to use essential oils. These are all, all kinds of different things that you can use to help you with your sleep cycle, to help you fall asleep. So I want to make sure that you feel comfortable, using some of these. Use some of these strategies that we discussed. We talked about all the different strategies, and try some of them. And when you do, can you share them with the group? Go on our Facebook page, share them with the group, because I'd really love for people to benefit from us actually doing stuff, right? So let's share with everybody and have a great day. And I want to answer any questions at this point. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and talk to you guys. So anybody have any questions?
What was the name of that diffuser that you said runs for 10 hours?
It's the Lumo diffuser that they came out with last September. It's an attractive diffuser. It's kind of like got a wood green base on the bottom.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that one. I have the pedal diffuser.
Yeah, the pedal diffuser I run like in my house. I have a lot of pedal diffusers around my house, but the one by my bed is the Lumo, because it does that intermittent thing and I need it to run all night.
That's what I need. I have trouble staying asleep.
Yeah, then you need something that runs all night,
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. So that would be a good one. So yeah, look at that. I think it's $70 if I remember correctly.
Wholesale.
Yep, wholesale.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Hey, Gloria, it's nice to see you. I don't think I've seen you at any of the meetings before. So any questions for you today? Okay, everybody knows where the Facebook page is, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go through this article and post some links for you that I referred to in the article, because I want you to have access to those. I already posted the resources for this, which would be a lot of your literature and resources. But some of the other links I thought were very interesting as far as kind of delving into this a little bit deeper. And as common as sleep difficulties are nowadays, you're going to have, for those of you who are doing doTERRA as a business, you're going to have people asking. They ask all the time. And it's not just adults, it's kids, teenagers. My teenagers have the hardest time falling asleep. I'm trying to get them to use the oils, but they're teenagers, so they're very obnoxious. And if I can get them to use the oils, I'm hoping they can do better, because they stress about everything. They're stressed about tests the next day at school, and they're up late, and they tend to stay up late on the weekends, and they do still, go to their friends' houses and have sleepovers, and it just really kind of messes up their whole cycle. And I keep trying to explain to them why they're having so much trouble sleeping, and they don't listen too well either at that age. So, but it's something to work with, and it's nice that some of these, any of these oils can be used on infants. I mean, even babies who are having trouble maintaining a good sleep cycle. It's kind of get them over that little edge, that little hurdle, because even babies sometimes they have their own little stresses going on, and they may have discomforts and things that are making it difficult for them to go to sleep. And it's normal for an infant to wake up in the middle of the night. They should, because they're supposed to be eating in the middle of the night, right? But as they get older, you do want them to be able to maintain a good night's sleep, a good, 7, 8, 9 hours in a row, definitely, especially during those growth phases. So you can put the blend that I gave you, you can put that on the bottom of their feet. It's a great tool. And a lot of parents put lavender on their kids' pillowcases. That's a really, really common one. They just put the lavender on the pillowcase. The kids get used to it. And most people love the smell of lavender. They don't mind it in their environment. They think it smells very pleasant. So definitely one of the top ones to try. And one of the things that's kind of interesting when you start to delve a little bit deeper, vetiver is one that works really well with people who tend to be on the ADD kind of spectrum, a little bit more high energy. They do better with vetiver than lavender, or you can use a combination of the two together, because the vetiver definitely acts differently in people that are already a little bit high strung, more energy. Okay. So try some of these different combinations. I've been trying different combinations, and some of them seem to work better than others. I even took, Lang-Ylang and cedarwood one night. I did Roman chamomile and frankincense last night, just for something different. And when you do vetiver, you probably don't want to do it alone. It's a really strange smelling oil. It needs a friend. So I would put something else in there to calm it down a little bit, because it is a super, super strong smell. So if you don't like the smell, of course, that's not going to be very good, is it? I think another one, sandalwood's another good one that I don't think I mentioned. That's a really good one for sleep. So several of the essential oils that we have are really good to help you maintain sleep throughout the night. And we all need to work on that. But, if you're not doing the other things, if you're simply relying on just the oils, I don't know how effective that's going to be. I mean, it might work for some, but if you're really, really stressed and you're not, winding down, our bodies can't just go from, full speed ahead to crashing. That's not normal. That's not healthy. We need that winding down period at the end of the evening. And so give yourself that time to wind down and start to calm down, do something relaxing or do something social. Even these kinds of meetings, I mean, these are pretty relaxing, hopefully for you guys too, as you're going through your winding down schedule for the evening. And then after this, don't get on the computer and start doing a bunch of stuff, because most of you guys are in the East Coast and you guys should be winding down and getting ready for bed, right? Okay, and then check your, if you're a builder, check your back offices. I am moving a lot of people. Every day I'm moving more people. So you're gonna see people pop on your team. I think everybody should be getting, everybody who's been active, and I see who you guys are, but everybody who has been active should be getting somebody from me each month. I believe everybody here has gotten somebody from me in the last month, and may even get more people. So as those people show up under you, they become yours. You're their mentor. And if they need help, I want you to be for them, there for them. I'm also there for them. But it'd be nice if you can establish a relationship with them as well. And then they have two mentors, people that they can work with to understand the oils, because a lot of people are just using this wholesale. They just want to learn how to use the oils better. And that's our job. It's our job to make sure they're using them correctly, efficiently, effectively, and to give them options so they know, what they can do to better their lives. Because that's what we're trying to do, right? Make everybody's life better.
I have a good blend for you that I use for sleep. It's clary sage, like 4 drops, and 4 drops of aroma touch.
Clary sage and aroma touch?
Out.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
So look, I don't remember what's in aroma touch. There's something in aroma touch I don't like, but maybe if mixed with clary sage, it won't bother me. Sometimes it's too strong or something.
It smells nice, and I go to sleep. I'm out in 5 minutes, but 3 hours later, I'm wide awake.
You got to diffuse it then, obviously, throughout the night.
I can't, because my pedal diffuser only goes 4 hours.
Well, if it goes 4 hours, then if you turn it on right before bed and it goes 4 hours, the oil will actually be in your system for 5.5 hours total.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit of time. And then another kind of a trick that we use, you can put essential oils in anything porous, will outgas slowly into your environment, which means you're going to get some of it. That's why we put it like on a pillowcase, or you can put it on a piece of raw wood. Just get a piece of bark or something that's untreated, just regular wood or terracotta, clay. A lot of those things will diffuse slowly into your environment. So a lot of people like using those. Even cotton balls. Hey, if you don't have any of these things, just use a cotton ball. I did that we have a rat problem here. And I have been taking cotton balls and dousing them with peppermint and throwing them behind where they keep going. And now we're catching them because they don't want to be near the peppermint. They don't like it. So I threw, you should see me, I was just throwing cotton balls full of peppermint at the wall, letting them fall behind the furniture just to get them out of there.
Doesn't the pet snake get the rats?
No, pet snake's in a cage. I don't let him run loose. He did when he got out. When he got out, he got really fat, so he did catch a lot of things when he got loose. But I've caught him again, put him back in the cage because I don't want to lose him. So yeah, but we don't want to have those varmints in our house. They are not house pets. They don't belong in my house. It's my house. I paid for this. They need to go outside. That's where they belong. I don't mind critters, and most critters don't bother me, but where they are at bothers me. If they're going to be destructive in my house and they can't be a pleasant house guest, then they don't belong in here. And rats and mice definitely don't belong in homes. They are just way too destructive. They do not belong here. So sending them outside. Any other questions, guys? Nope. Okay. Thanks for joining me, guys. I kept it an hour. I'm so happy. Oh, wait, got a question here on the chat. Oh, good.